So that brings us to the main event. And Peter, you talk about terrible human beings. Break a Wish Foundation leader John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare for the WWE Championship. John Cena, the heel turn has happened. He sold his soul to The Rock, and we haven't seen or really heard about The Rock since.
Broke the internet.
Travis Scott was there too, uh, looking uninterested and bored. Uh,
Looking like your creative character in a cutscene.
but it was genuinely incredible, though. It really was. It was everything that like the 20-year build up warranted being. The promos afterwards, I mean, I get the you people promo is like a trope that a lot of people on Twitter with no profile picture is like over. Um, John Cena earned the fact that of doing those promos.
Oh, 100%.
Really made you feel I know I sat there being like, wow, this feels like he's like, you're right, John. I did do this to you.
Oh, he was directly talking to 2010 through 2015 Peter Lewis.
See, what's
Actually,
funny,
probably 16, 17.
I enjoyed singing along. John Cena sucks, because I was a SmackDown only viewer. I never had the John Cena like over watering, killing everybody I like phase because typically how it worked was,
I did.
yeah, totally. But we didn't have cable, so we only had local channel. And SmackDown left in I think 2010, 09. I was early on in high school when it left, and so that's when I quit watching. Um, so basically, my experience was with John Cena is I love you. I love your Spinner US title. You beat JBL. Oh no, I'm super sad you're leaving me now. That's kind of was my John Cena experience, really. And then like, okay, I see the Raw recaps. Cena wins LOL. Okay, sure. And then the guy he beats gets drafted to SmackDown and becomes one of my favorites for the next 6 months. Like that's kind of my John Cena cycle. Um, but obviously
You know,
knowing the big picture of things.
it's funny because I said in part one around 2010 was when my, prevailing in and out of WWE began. And I know one of the big reasons was because at that point, I was in high school, so I was definitely a teenager. God, it feels scary to say that was 15 years ago. Oh God, I'm approaching 30. This is bad.
I plucked out 3 white hairs from my beard last week. Right there.
I saw one the other day. I was like, oh, here we go. But anyway, one of the reasons was, teenage Peter becoming cynical, starting to read the dirt sheets, starting to realize what wrestling truly is. And then, SummerSlam happens with the Nexus. And I was like, oh, this son of a you know what. And then
You know
it
what's
just
funny with
snowballed.
Nexus? I think Cena was right. Outside of Wade Barrett, none of them were all that good.
Oh, sure.
In,
If they
in
kept
retrospect,
if they had kept Debray, it could have been very different. But yeah, it was just the Wade Barrett show.
and speaking of Wade Barrett, that's one aspect of this whole thing I really wish they would lean into more. Is you have like John Cena mentioned, in a great killer line to Cody. I don't bury talent, I bury mediocrity.
Right.
Amazing line because that's one of the whole thing. Oh, John Cena's buried all your favorites, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have the guy on commentary that I think most people think of first
Oh, yeah.
when they think of guys John Cena beat that he shouldn't have. Like in my brain, it probably goes like Wade Barrett, Bray Wyatt, Rusev.
Yeah. I think
Those
that's a
are
good
like
three right
my
there.
those are probably my big three. You have the guy on commentary though, who probably lost the most to John Cena in terms of like what
Oh,
he had to gain, you know. And to not have Wade do a sit down interview with Cody, to not have Wade really tell his side of the John Cena story, I think it's a majorly missed opportunity, and I think could have been fascinating.
absolutely. But getting back to how great this heel turn has been is that they finally got us unironically cheering for him. We wanted him to win the Rumble. Oh,
Yeah.
he didn't. Okay, well, elimination chamber it can happen. And then they pull this out. It's like, and again, his reasons are justified. Because I saw a video of people were just reminding of the hate he received back in I feel like 13. He said he was going out with an injury, he announces on Raw, and people, the crowd cheered. I was just like, oh God, I was part of that.
Yep.
Yeah, he is. It's a great heel turn in quotes for the audio listeners. But like, John Cena is the most justified person in the history of professional wrestling to turn heel.
Yeah.
Way more than Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach. Like, this guy has suffered the worst of the worst. 2008 Royal Rumble, he miraculously returns from a year-long injury in 4 months, and we're like, oh, it's John Cena. And then within seconds, we remember, wait a minute, I hate this man. Boo, boo, boo. Oh no, he won. Oh, of course, Super Cena won. Blah blah. Blah. This is the layer to this has just been phenomenal. I am so happy here. I know some people have said, "Oh, it's just too much promo." It's like, I'm fine with that. That's what I
What do you
need.
think it was gonna be?
That's what I'm saying. It's like
Like,
you're not going to have them fight. You're not going to have like a mini feud for some with somebody,
no, you're not gonna have a random John Cena versus Pete Dunne match on Raw. Like, that's not
right?
gonna happen.
Right. This is 23 years of John Cena built up saying what he probably felt deep down, even though he's very stoic and political, and how he tried to roll the punches. He tried to explain. I remember he was on Graham Norton a couple years ago. He would explain, the why the people do the John Cena sucks chant, how it's somewhat of a term of endearment, and it definitely became that later down the
Mhm.
road,
Like the
like
Kurt
the
Angle you suck.
Kurt Angle, you suck, yes,
Mhm.
but yeah, when you really get down to it, yes, he did have a toxic relationship with us.
And I think you're right. There's probably a 10% truth in everything he's saying there, right? Like he doesn't really believe that, it's been that bad. But were there nights on a house show where he probably got really frustrated by things? Probably.
Right.
And he's probably channeling those frustrations right now. And that's great. That being said, I think he probably wins it here. Wins 17 as a heel, and we're going to awkwardly be leaving Cody's second Infinity War. Uh Rebecca, is that how you see this going?
A little bit, yeah. I remember when he turned heel, we did not watch together. My, you were out of town because you had the,
Colorado.
the
I was
weekend
in
trip. You were
Denver.
in Colorado. And you had been mentioning, you're like, "Huh, what if Cena turns heel? Huh, that's
Yeah.
not gonna happen." But you're like, oh, that maybe could work, but they may have needed more time to build the story. I don't know. He turns heel, and I don't know where you were at. You weren't sure if you were gonna catch it. I call you and I am literally hyperventilating. I'm like, are you watching? And you're like, I just started. And I said, oh my gosh. And you're like, there's literally like only two things that could have happened. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And you're like, I will let you know. And then I went to bed hyperventilating. Um, my dad hadn't watched either. You had texted me, I think at like midnight. So I'm asleep and you're like, it happened. And I texted my best friend Kelsey and I was like, Matt, oh, I literally just said, oh, Matt's predicting Cena's gonna turn heel. And I was like, it happened. She was like, holy crap, Matt was right. And I said, I'm freaking out. And then my dad came over the next day. It was actually when we hung these up. And he's like, so I haven't watched, but I did see the clip on Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can talk about it. And I said it out loud. And I'm like screaming. I was like venting about it. My mom comes out of the bathroom. She's like, what the heck is wrong? I was like, John Cena's a bad guy. And she's like, why do I care? She's like, stop shaking me. So I think what just shocks me, like, about the whole thing was just that you predicted it. And you're like, it's not going to happen, but you
Yeah.
predicted it. And I think that's what freaked me out more than anything was like, I don't know if Cena had turned heel without you saying what you said, if I would have necessarily reacted as dramatically as I did. But long story short, yes, I do think Cena is taking the title. I do not think babyface Cena would have taken the title. Heel Cena, I think, needs the title.
Question on that regard. I think there was plans that may have changed a bit with The Rock showing up here, right? Do you think though they could have or would have done a John Cena heel turn at Mania? They go in as
Ooh.
babyface. heel turn at Mania to win. Does that work as well? Does it work better?
I
Not as well?
I think that could have worked. I like that would have honestly been so epic to see.
I was about to say
And
on the WrestleMania stage, it would just almost elevate itself. Like
like
if the
that probably
Hulk,
would have been the WrestleMania moment of
right?
this, at least this decade, if not this.
Like remember
Cody
Hogan turning
winning.
heel yeah, Hogan turning heel happened at Bash at the Beach. That was basically a B pay-per-view for WCW. If that happened at a Starcade, oh my god, that would have
Yeah.
that would have nuked the wrestling world.
Because yeah, I mean, because you think of all the buildup, all the stuff, and I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit, but like I know Cena was saying, I win the title, but I would take it with me. No, I think there's a rematch at SummerSlam. I don't think it'd be Backlash. I think it'd be SummerSlam, and then that's when Cody takes it back. I mean, it Cody's my current favorite right now. It is not going to be fun to see Cody not keep the title at Mania, but I
I
don't
know.
see a world where John doesn't get it.
I think oh, I'm trying to think backtrack here to one thing that one of you guys mentioned there. With kind of the lead up, him having the night of the press conference promo where he put himself into the chamber. It's like that little hint was right there. And I feel like that's why I actually made that like kind of joking prediction. It was kind of a joke where I was just like, well, you know what? Like, here's this one thing, kind of a heel thing to do here, John. You just put yourself in, and CM Punk pointed it out where
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk was like, look, man, the rest of us are here tonight. And then Logan Paul came out to the John Cena music, and it's like, yeah, John's not here. Why would John Cena be here? But like the seeds were kind of there in that regard. Like there
And
were
he said, I'm going to do what's best for business
Yes,
too.
that is a very charged line. That is a very much like the authority timeline. That is a very like heel line to say, and he knows what he's doing. So that stuff I thought was incredible. Also, by the way, in the chamber match when he had the STFU on Punk, usually John Cena's STFU, it's such a joke. It's a loose hug. He had that sucker in on Punk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Seth
it
was
was
die Punk die, and Cena was trying to do it.
Well, and it was after, like you said, what, like you just said, like Seth had just like murdered Punk and then left him for John, and John, instead of being like, holy crap, I can't, like, being a
He's
good guy, no, he just immediately went, I'm taking advantage.
and so there was definitely like those hints to it, and you having the reaction when you called me too at this because you called me right when I started the show, and they opened the show with that clip of the press conference. So I kind of connected the dots, but at the same time I was like, well, there's no way, right? Like it's not no. And so I'm like, oh my God, it's happening.
Well, I think at the same time, that was the night that Cody was going to potentially sell his soul. So I was like, hopefully, I was like, I didn't give it away. Maybe Cody did sell his soul.
No, and I still thought it could have been Punk at that point in time too. Like I had a little bit of Punk theory also going on. Um, but yeah, so moving forward, yeah, so I'm totally in agreement too. Cena wins here. Cena wins, sad lol. I think then Backlash is a Randy Orton match. It's in St. Louis. I think that's where you do that match. I would like to see Money in the Bank be Punk because you have the Money in the Bank history there. But at the same time, I think Cena holds this thing all the way to the end. And I think what day of the week is New Year's Eve on this year? What day of the week do we have New Year's Eve? Look my
Look.
Outlook calendar
It
here.
is a Wednesday.
Oh, that is
Oh, dang.
and you're hugged up so much close to Christmas that it really makes the end of the year hard. But one thing I think would be great is if CM Punk is the final hope, right? CM Punk, who has been Mr. Anti WWE for so long, anti authority, whatever you want to call it. He's the guy who won the title against John Cena and blew a kiss going out the door.
Threatened to take it to New Japan Ring of Honor.
Up, if he's the last hope to keep that title around, I think this threat storyline that Cena's got, yeah, it's gonna make some of these title defenses be pretty predictable. And you're gonna have some eggs on Twitter being like, "Oh, well, where's the story? Oh, another predictable title defense." The same people who complain about Cody, you know. I think though that December month pay-per-view, whatever Johnson, maybe it's what would that be, January 29th Raw? Um,
Uh,
would probably be the last show he'd be on.
yes.
Um, you do Punk there, and you make CM Punk be the last hope. And I don't know if Punk wins. I think you could get away with where Punk loses, maybe Cody wins another Rumble, or whoever it is that wins a Rumble there and says, I love you, whoever's got the World Heavyweight Champion, you're not the champion I'm challenging. I'm challenging John Cena. And they have the next 2 months where I am challenging the WWE Champion. I am challenging John Cena, and that's next year's WrestleMania match.
You know, on Sunday, December 21st, if they really want to have a true end of the year pay-per-view, kind of like the old guard, have Starcade come back, and that, what
So
a great way
close to
to establish.
Christmas.
I know.
I don't think you want to touch Christmas though.
Because a lot of times, well, at least recently, Triple H has been like doing like pre-recorded shows and giving the performers that
Right,
week off.
Yeah.
right. But again, still 21st, and then they go home for Christmas for a week.
Yeah, that would
That's a
make.
good deal.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna have a fallout from that on a
Right.
pre-recorded show, you'd almost want to push that back a week, kind
Yeah,
of
okay.
thing.
That's where I'm thinking that Raw on the 29th is the spot to do it. And Raw's on Netflix, so like, I don't know, I guess you can kind of, throw them that bone and
Right.
go for it, just be weird to have that be a Raw match. But that's
I mean, that's something that they would do for Netflix numbers. I mean,
totally. I mean, look at the Raw on Netflix week 1, right?
Right. Because this is the John Cena farewell tour for the year. So, actually, kind of a good question for you two. Would you feel cheated in a way if this is not John Cena's last WrestleMania and it's going to be New Orleans next year?
yeah.
I would not, because when we bought the tickets, we did not. Well, I guess when we bought the tickets, we did know, didn't we? It had already been.
Money in the Bank Toronto. That was
We would have
July.
known. We would have known.
Okay.
Now, when we decided to go to Mania, when we made the decision that this is what we were going to do, no, we did not know.
Okay.
But I think I would feel cheated.
You know what? I think it just depends on how good the show is. If it's a crappy show where Logan Paul wins by cheating and Finn rolls up Penta and Rhea Ripley turns heel to win the title and
Charlotte wins in 10 minutes. Lol.
yeah, if the rest of the show is crap, and depending on how Cody Cena goes, by the way, like if The Rock shows up, like if we have the Avengers Endgame type of match here that we had a year ago, where yeah, The Rock shows up and then Austin shows up and Travis Scott shows up, so Bad Bunny shows up to run him off. Like if we,
Undertaker shows up to destroy them all.
yeah, if we get that, no, I'm not gonna feel cheated.
Okay.
I don't think.
Cheated may not be the right word I want to use, but just like,
Yeah.
I'd almost be disappointed that like I went to this WrestleMania expecting this to be Cena's last, and I was like, oh, because like this is easily the only WrestleMania we'll ever attend.
Yeah.
Unless money grows on trees, we'll attend another one. But
I was gonna say, let me paraphrase like this. I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, so I'm actually looking at maybe soloing WrestleMania. So would you feel fine if Peter Lewis of all people had the last John Cena WrestleMania match?
I don't know if I want
There,
to give you that.
yeah. There it is.
I'm
I
not
do
giving you
think
that.
my other side too would just be that like that 2026 chunk, like if what I proposed happens, if that's really good, it has to be worth it for me on television.
Right.
Then,
Because
like
the way the year ends, you can't have the finale be at War Games because Two Rings is it's gonna be a weird visual for the rest of the time.
yeah. Well, a weird visual, but also like that's too much time.
Right.
Like the threat's not there then. Like to me, it
Right.
needs to be the last show of the year.
Right.
That where that threat is truly executable. And also, by the way, I don't think and that they can do anything to win me over on it. I don't want Cody to be the one to win this title back from Cena.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
don't know who I want it to be. I think Punk makes a whole lot of sense. And I know,
Oh,
you know, young
I
guys
know.
win, that kind of stuff, but like I think the guy who ends this Cena run where John Cena turned heel against WWE to have CM Punk be the guy to save WWE, I think that's a better story than 20-year-old Braun Breaker winning his first title by beating John Cena. I think that's
Right.
I think that's better use of it than just putting over the young guy to put over the young guy, or a Cody who's been the QB of the last 3 years, who's been amazing and great. And you know, Cody, there's WWE defender, there. Same thing with Seth Rollins, right? In that same way.
I was gonna say, just talk about Mr. WWE, the guy who lives and
Yeah.
breathes it.
I
Seth
think it's
Rollins would be a really good call.
I think it's better to have it be a guy
But
who's
Punk,
anti WWE
exactly,
who
exactly.
saves it.
There's levels of irony that are kind of poetic.
Oh, that
The,
also is good.
there's something going on in AEW right now with Hangman Page and Swerve that's kind of got vibes of that, where Swerve is very much, or Hangman is very much anyone but you to
Hmm.
Swerve, but like Moxley is so out of control and Moxley kind of provoked him that like Hangman kind of helped Swerve
Hmm.
at the most recent pay-per-view. It's kind of got vibes of that. You know, I think having Mr. Anti WWE be the one to save him would actually be really really cool. And at which point I would finally drink the Pepsi and be in on Pepsi. With
Oh,
that,
speaking of which, I should probably say yes. I do pick Cena as well to win.
okay.